Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, and not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. Apologies for our viewers as I am adjusting myself. I just didn't like the way my there's a thing. But anyway, you're looking wonderful. Well done. Whatever your secret is, there's no doubt that the things that age us and impact our health are in fact stress. No question about it. And what that does, although I haven't experienced stress probably all of my life, there's an element of resilience to it as well, right? As in, there's aspects of how you overcome that, and you just become accustomed to it. I'm not saying it's a healthy thing. I'm just saying there is a bit of that as well. But primarily and most critically, of course, you can start running and keeping fit and doing all of these things, and it's important that you do. However, I've said for decades now, if you want to transform your body, it's all about what you're putting in it, and obviously what you're putting on it. There's no question about that. And it's dead easy to fall into bad habits. So, I mean, gosh, I've been saying this month, right? Up until December, last year actually was an incredibly stressful year. It took me 7 months to move, and I hadn't expected that was real stress, right? Because it was out of my control. So the stress that you have no control over is the most powerful and painful. And in particular, where you are hopeless and helpless. So you don't have any hope because you don't know whether something's going to happen, and you're unable to help do something because it's out of your control. So that part of stress is probably the worst ever. And having experienced that constantly for 3-4 months last year, gosh, it was horrible. And to see my wife, sort of being in that, because I'm really protective, like incredibly protective of my family, in that I shield them from everything. I feel that that's just the way I am, rightly or wrongly so. So I've never ever burdened them with anything that I might whine on, and I might have one foot in the grave like Victor Meldrew, and complain about things all the time. But I certainly don't burden them with anything stressful. So I think that contributed to my stress. And the sad thing about it was a solicitor's firm that representing the people who were buying us that were wholly and exclusively responsible for that stress. And I begged them, Jeff. I actually begged them. I wrote, I am begging you, please. I don't want to complain. I just need you to have some care and compassion. And guess what their response was? 2 fingers.
Really?
They sent an email to my solicitor saying, tell your client not to bother us.
Yeah, because they think that the wrong that they're doing, they think that that's right, and they're going to be totally in the defensive. And I think is that what happened?
Them, Jeff, all I asked was some care and compassion. I actually highlighted, look, this is how I feel. This is
quite a lot. It's quite a lot to ask for in today's society, though.
Not when you're paying for it, though.
Yeah, it's still a lot to ask for, Ammar, unfortunately.
Anyway,
it's like a very basic. It's a very basic value that should be how we kind of approach our daily lives. But unfortunately, it's definitely moving away from that, sadly.
No, but solicitors and accountants, right? Professional service providers, it is enshrined in law. They have a duty of care. It's in the law.
Mm.
That's part of their profession.
Yeah,
Sadly, that duty of care can be easily misinterpreted, and the computer says no, and we just use systems and things like that. Sad thing about it is it's a local firm. I'd love to name and shame them, but I thought, you know what? I can have these type of conversations. People can talk to me personally and privately.
yeah,
Naturally, I
of
would
course. I mean,
I would tell them, you know, but I'm not gonna. It's not.
you don't.
It doesn't bear the
Mm.
stress of thinking about that stress. In fact, I'm getting stressed thinking about the stress.
I mean, look, you don't need to name and shame anybody because you've got a network. When people ask you privately for recommendations, of naturally you wouldn't recommend an organization that you've had a very bad experience with. And I think with any business, word of mouth is the most potent form of marketing. So, you know, any operator that doesn't, you know, value the basics of customer service, then the recommendations are not going to be forthcoming. So I'm sure privately, you know, you do get asked a lot because of the position that you're in on builders and contacts and business contacts and, you know, A, B, C, and D, which I'm sure you're not going to recommend this particular company to.
Yeah, it's yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyway, stress and limiting that stress. But yeah, this month. So anyway, like going back to that point, last year, incredibly stressful year. I found myself, you know, bad habits, maintained some good ones. So I was still getting up 5 o'clock in the morning, still training for, you know, an hour, spending that time to myself and things like that. But then as the year went on, in certain aspects, actually, I remember feeling depressed during that point. I actually remember, like, on a few occasions, not wanting to get out of bed.
Mm.
And I've never done that, never felt that. I might like turn over and go, oh, I fancy a little bit of a lie. But I actually felt depressed. And that was a horrible feeling, horrible feeling. Yeah, as in it's like because of that helpless and hopelessness and things like that. Anyway, um, so as the year went on, and then December was just like eating and eating and eating and eating
Yeah.
and eating, and it was just like, oh my God. So, and I remember waking up on January the 1st thinking, I feel rubbish, like bleh, eating so many chocolates and sweets and sugar. Sugar is a horrific, Jack. It's so bad, so bad. But anyway, this month I've been relatively good. Haven't been great. I didn't set out to be great, but you know, I've maintained. I've worked out 25 days this month as I was looking at my app. I've ate predominantly well, but I need to start using your serums and things like that. Is the thing. And then I stopped taking all of my, so in the morning, for the last few ever years, I've always took multivitamins, guarana, a variety of different types of sort of minerals and vitamins. And, you know, I take about 7 or 8 different tablets every morning, as I have done. So I stopped them for a couple of weeks as well,
Mhm.
because it's important to, you know, cycle what you do. And do you know what? I stopped using them, and I
Mhm.
didn't feel any different.
You didn't feel?
Any different?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My body wasn't saying, "Oh my God, there's
Anything.
deficiencies," because
Yeah,
actually, your body's a magical thing
yeah,
that produces everything that you need, and
yeah.
it tells you if if you need more of other things.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing. But I guess you sometimes it's hard to gauge, isn't it? How beneficial the vitamins are for you, and whether you generally feel a lot better after taking them? Can you tell? Do you physically know, mentally know? Do you mentally feel it?
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a placebo effect, and actually, every single vitamins and minerals will say it contributes to a healthy diet and things like that. None of them turn around and say they'll make you live better and longer and all of them type of things, because they legitimately can't. And numerous studies, I think things like vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin B, there's certain vitamins that we naturally have a deficiency in because of the lack of sun and various other things. But I must admit, I did. After training, I always used to eat vitamins and minerals and all of these other complementary therapy type things. And I always felt like, oh, gosh, I felt alert and, so much more so and things like that. Have I missed that? I don't know. Because I equally changed my diet a little bit as well. So I'm getting I'm eating more salads, more vegetables, more things that have got vitamins, eating more protein. And then I started these men supplements, because when you get to my age, you need to start thinking a little bit more. So I've started taking these supplements. They're called, anyway, I'm not going to say what they're called because I cannot vouch for them as yet. I've only started taking them the last week or so. But they apparently help you sleep. I don't say they do, because I'm still sort of waking up in the night. But I certainly feel as if I've had a deeper sleep. And apparently they're good for your gut and things like that. And then I take something in the middle of the day, and then I take something at the end of the day. So morning, middle of the day, but not necessarily my multivitamins, not necessarily all of the guarana and all of the other things that I was taking. I'm just going to try these for a few weeks and see what happens.
Cool.
Do you take vitamins, Jeff?
Well, I take a black seed oil.
Right.
I have a black seed oil capsule every single day. That's kind of more, it's a more based on faith. It's a faith-related one, because our prophet said that if you have a black seed oil on a regular basis, it helps you with everything, whether it's physical or mental. It helps you in every single way apart from save you from death. So we
Really?
have that one. Yeah, we have that one. It's a really, really important one for me to have. I have it.
Where do you get it from?
It's just called a black seed oil, Holland and Barrett. So I have that every day. And that's kind of the thing that I had all the way through the pandemic. I started it actually around about the pandemic time, because whilst everyone was doing all of these other things that the government was telling everyone to do, but I kind of did my own thing. So that's really good. I have a multivitamin, and I have a vitamin D. So I take 3 tablets, and I don't know whether they better for me or not, but I think I think over the last couple of years, apart from 1 or 2 odd bits of flu here and there, nothing major, I feel as though that has helped, and it has done good to strengthen the immune system, and just mentally do something positive for us. But I think the key thing, Ammar, is having good quality water.
Actually, yeah, it is. So I don't drink tap water, and haven't done so for a number of years now. And I know that sounds slightly pretentious, but
I don't think it is. I don't think it is pretentious at all. I think it's a very, very it's something that everyone must understand and research, and then you have to be able to make your own decision.
Yeah, no, well, anyway, I mean, it's funny because I go to places and they'll go, oh, well, we haven't got any bottled water, we want some tap water. And I'm like, no, I don't. And actually, I always carry a bottle of water around with me. I always have to. I probably drink verge on drinking more water than you should. So I drink on average 7 to 8 liters a day. As in, ideally, you should be drinking 3 to 4, through between 3 and 5 is what you should ideally be drinking. But I'll probably have 2 liters before 8 o'clock in the morning, and then sort of a couple of liters in the more throughout the day, and then a couple of more liters sort of by night time. That's why I end up having to get up and go for a wee all the time. Anyway, you needed to know that. And I drink a lot of green tea, is what I do.
Yep.
So I don't drink coffee, I don't drink normal tea, I just drink green tea. And
what does that do for you, Ammar, the green tea?
I just enjoy it, Jeff. It's I started drinking it about 15 years ago or something like that, and it was novel at the time. You know, it was a rarity. You got it in places. I remember when it came into Starbucks and Costa, it was like, oh my gosh, they're selling green tea. You know, it was like, I still remember those moments. But yeah, I started drinking it. I like the taste of it. And it doesn't have milk. You don't put sugar in it and whatever that is. And I believe it's still caffeine. It's just like black tea. It just hasn't been burnt in the sun type of thing. And it's more organic is what it is. But no, I really enjoy drinking it. I equally miss coffee, but I have a cup of coffee now. It has such an adverse effect on me and my health that I'll either not be able to go to sleep. I'll fall asleep straight after drinking it. So I could drink it at 8, 9 o'clock at night and I'll be asleep. But then I'll wake up and the caffeine in it has a significant impact. And then, funnily enough, sometimes I end up putting on a bit of weight with having drinking coffee, whereas it's meant to like not. So anyway, everyone's unique is the thing. Everyone is really unique. I was just obviously because that's what you do. You Google it. I was looking at this black cumin seed organic carrier oil, and they want £8,144 and 95 pence for a 200-litre carafe of it. 200 litres. Is that what you want?
No, you just want. I think you need to use a black seed oil.
No, this is black cumin seed oil.
No, it's not. Just black seed. Just do black seed oil.
All right. Okay. Comes from Israel. This is black seed oil, man, but it's actually black cumin seed. That's what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, but this is 200 liters of it. Obviously, this is for.
You wouldn't have all of that. You wouldn't have all of that in one go.
Yeah.
You might turn into Superman or Popeye or one of those.
Or the Hulk. Yeah. So I think you're right. People need to think about their health. January, it's a great time, but the most important thing is by now, lots of people have given up all their resolutions. They've stopped, going to the gym, or they're about to stop going to the gym. They're not as motivated. But I'm just looking forward to being slightly more motivated. And as I say, because I'm sort of hitting that age, I need to think a little bit more about my health. Training-wise, I've increased the intensity of my training, so I'm training for slightly longer and doing it slightly differently as well. Still haven't lost that. It takes a long time to, as in lose what it's dead easy to put on, or it feels like. Anyway, you're listening to Health Matters with Ammar on our weekly show business. Yeah. Martha didn't give us a script this week. I don't know what's going on, Martha.
Well, I think there's always plenty to talk about in the world, Ammar, for sure.
Absolutely. And what was I going to say? There is primarily because, well, some of what I've been doing. So I went to the Convention of the North, Jeff,
Right.
So this week, gosh, I felt it this week. Like, when you're just doing things after thing after thing after thing. And that's probably every single week. But this week in particular, I was sort of delivering sessions online on Monday, on Tuesday, met with a round table with the British Business Bank and lots of the finance representatives, and we had a round table and a big conversation about finance and availability of finance and investor readiness in the Northeast and things like that, and how businesses can access it or not, and where are the gaps. So that was interesting. And then I went to Manchester for the Convention of the North. So it's this big, massive sort of convention at the convention centre. It's meant to be the whole of the North, but primarily they just talk about Manchester, a little bit of Yorkshire, and nothing about the Northeast. So that was a bit disappointing. But it was great because to see the likes of Andy Burnham and whatever else, people who are trying to make a difference and do make a difference, and they had some great speakers, and Michael Gove was there and whatever else. And funnily enough, I met more people there from the Northeast than I normally would in the Northeast, like all the council leaders, everyone. So it was great that the Northeast was represented, and it's very important that that is the case. But one of the, talking about stress, Jeff, so I didn't want to drive, right? Because I don't know about you now, but and I had this conversation with someone else just this morning. I just want to get the train. I don't.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And they were like, "Oh, do you think that's an age thing?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but it's more the fact that it's a stress thing. I don't mind. I don't mind driving, so we'll drive to Liverpool because that's where my in-laws are. I don't look forward to it, but I don't mind it. But if I'm going to Manchester or London, or if I'm going to like a conference or an event, I just want to get on the train."
Well, I think it's because you're in a business mood or in the business mode, and you want to be able to get on with your work on the train, and you're going to be constantly working, emailing, whereas in the car, it's just not possible. It's just not the same, is it? Especially if you're driving. Forget it.
Oh, and the stress and the whatever else. However, having booked the train a few weeks back, I was going to go down the day before, stay over, so I'm there. I'm not worried about getting there. And then I thought, you know what? I don't like even being away from the family, if I can help it. So I decided to get an early morning train. It wasn't the end of the world because I'm awake anyway. But last week on the news, 600 trains got cancelled, and the worst affected journey is the Trans-Pennine Express. So they just keep cancelling trains, and they do it on the day or the day before with short notice and blame it on unavailability of drivers so they don't have to give you refunds.
Oh, really? So what? Just because the driver doesn't turn up, it means that they're not issued. They don't have to. That doesn't make sense. You're still not providing the service, though.
No. Well,
so what loophole?
Well, anyway, so it got to, and I said to the wife, I said, I'm a bit concerned about trains, and equally, I don't want to be stuck down there, because that's a worry. And I was thinking, what would I do? And then there was all of these horrific stories of, sort of an hour journey taking 5-6 hours and things like that. Anyway, sure, lo and behold, Tuesday evening, we're letting you know your train's been cancelled from Newcastle to Manchester. You can get a later train. Just check it out. So then I looked, and there was like the train that I was on. It was going to York and terminating at York, and there was another train from York to Manchester. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what about my seat? Because if they're cancelling trains, I want to get a seat. So I then all of a sudden stupidly paid extra for the change my journey. So I got from the Newcastle to York and the York to Manchester, whereas my ticket would have been valid anyway. Once I've booked it, it says, oh, you haven't got a reserved seat. So that was a waste. So anyway, gets on the train, and we sat with other people who were on the original train, and they didn't change their journey or train or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah,
that. They were using that ticket. Gets to York, jumps on this new train to Manchester, and because the new train um, was an alternative one, we were in our seats that we were from Newcastle to on the original one, and then everyone's piling in
yeah,
because like you're in my seat, and they're saying to Elaine, who I was traveling with, you're in my seat. And we're like, well, what do you do in that circumstance, right? Because anyway, we didn't do anything because basically we said, and the conductor had said, oh, just sit in whatever seat you originally were and don't worry about it. And then these people, and you just felt a bit guilty. But the train was like sardines. It was horrible. No wonder people are like well in this circumstance because they're forced to travel. Gets to Manchester and good event, really good event. Michael Gove was there.
Sorry, how long does it take you to get to Manchester on the train?
So normally it's about 2 hours 16.
Mm-hmm.
The direct trains are out 2 and 60, 2 and a quarter to 2.5 is the direct train.
Okay.
But this one we left at 6:06 and we got there at 8:40 or something like that. So there was a change at York, which was like 15 minutes sort of in between the trains. So yeah, around about 2.5 hours is what it probably normally takes. Which I was talking to some people who drive, because obviously in these type of environments and circumstances, everyone just comes together, don't they? As in, and everyone starts sort of talking and complaining and whatever else. And the guy there he's like, he says, it doesn't matter how long this takes. He says, if I tried the M62, the M62 is the worst motorway in the UK for trying to drive across it. And I thought, that's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, I think the links between Manchester and ourselves should be so much better, Ammar, because we're two big cities in the north, very important cities. But I think the whether it's by road or rail, I think it's pretty poor because you'd much rather go to London, especially by train, than Manchester. If you had a choice in terms of the frequency of travel, the frequency of the trains, how quickly you can get there, the ease, and so that's something that I'm surprised that they haven't worked on because they should. There should be a direct train to Manchester.
There is a direct train. It's just a slow one. Is the point?
Yeah.
And so consequently, they got there, and then whilst I was there, they were like, "Oh, your 6 o'clock train's been cancelled." So I just thought, do you know what? This is just silly. So I paid extra, got myself an any time single whatever ticket, and jumped on the 4 o'clock. And actually, so did half a dozen other people. The convention was meant to finish at 4:30. I was meant to be meeting some people at like between 4:30 and 5 and 5:30, and then going to the train station. I just thought it's not worth the stress. And that was the thing. It was so stressful. It was so unnecessarily stressful. The train I jumped on, it took 2 hours. We left there at 4 o'clock, got into Newcastle at 6:15, and that's what it should have been like. But the amount of people who I spoke to who had gone there, it took them 4 hours. Because they cancelled not just like my train, they cancelled the 5 o'clock train, and then there was another train, and then they had to get a slow train that stopped everywhere, and then they had to jump and change it 2 or 3 times. So the people who left at 5 o'clock, right, they didn't get back till like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really terrible, the state of affairs, especially to do with transport. It's bewildering what's happening, whether it's flights or whether it's trains or whether
they were just saying. So they were saying that they they were saying that the biggest issue affecting everyone right now is transport.
Yeah, I just think that the policy is deliberate for me. I don't understand why, but it seems to be that way because surely it can't be that bad that you can't find a driver for a train. I mean, I just cannot, I just cannot believe that. Why can you not find a driver? And it happens so often. They're using that as an excuse. Oh, we're waiting for the driver to come. I mean,
Yeah.
employ some more drivers. You're. It's the
Yeah, I don't
national
think it's
train.
as simple as that. There's a whole host of so interestingly, I was listening to a debate yesterday on Radio 4 in between listening to Spice FM, obviously. And they were talking about the fact that what they're trying to do is address pay issues and productivity issues at the same time. So they're trying to make things more efficient and pay people less. And there's a whole range of complexities that we don't understand, we're simply unaware of. But ultimately, there isn't enough people to be able to train drivers, right? Because they don't have the luxury of being able to do that. And I was sat there and we were talking, having this conversation. Imagine if you're coming to work every day, Jack, and you're getting a kicking off everyone. Right? So everybody on the train, because you're the representative. No, we're there because it's like you're the representative, right? You're the conductor, or you're the, whoever it is, and everybody, because your company's cancelling the train and you've still got the decency to come to work because it's the right thing. But everyone's giving you abuse. Like everybody's giving you abuse.
Well, Ammar, it's not. I mean, you're saying that they don't. It takes time, or they don't have the resources. It's not exactly a kebab shop, is it? It's you can call it the National Train Service, and they've got billions of pounds. It's government funded to a certain extent as well. So if the government really wanted to give the resources to that particular industry for the benefit of the public, to make sure that we can get from A to B at real good time, so that we can get on with our businesses, our lives, and make sure that the economy it's all impacting on the economy, isn't it? Because you want an efficient train driver, but if you have an inefficient train driver, every single person on that particular train, they're not getting on with their day efficiently. So the consequences of one driver as opposed to every single person that's carrying it's having a huge negative impact overall, and I'm sure that's having an impact on the economy too. So surely they should give the resources to the industry to make sure that these problems are fixed.
So it's a very complex problem, and we don't understand the depth and the detail of it. Naturally,
just to find a few more drivers.
No, it's not justifying a few more drivers. It takes months. Drivers get paid really well, but it takes months, if not years, to train a driver, and they don't have enough people coming into it to be able to do that. You're comparing kebab shops. How many people can get someone to come and cut a kebab now? Never mind train a train. Train. There's nothing. It's like, I've got people sort of telling me they haven't got any resource for anything. You cannot get a newspaper boy or a girl these days.
So are you telling me it's more complex to drive a train which is on the track and you just got to press the accelerator, press the brake, and that's it? You get from A to B, as opposed to all these millions of people driving where you have to change from gear to gear, go around little roads, big roads, A, B, C, and D. Surely being a train driver isn't exactly the most...
Have you ever driven a train?
I think it's much easier to drive a train than...
But have you ever
No, but I'm saying it's much easier to drive a train as opposed to driving a big double-decker bus, right?
No.
Surely.
Have you ever driven a train?
No, but if you have to learn how to drive a train,
so it's not as
put me
simple. No, but
put me on a crash course.
okay, but it might sound simple, Jeff.
Just put me on a crash course for 7 days. 7 days, I will be able to learn how to drive a train, and I'll take you down to bloody King's Cross on one of those Azuma trains in a week. I'm not joking. How difficult can it be?
You are okay. It is exceptionally. There are so many complications in driving a train. I don't know what they are. However, I do know that it takes months, nigh on a year, for someone to be qualified. It's not simply a case of pushing some buttons and you're on a track and whatever else. There's a whole range of considerations. How quick you go, how slow you go, how much you slow down, how much you speed up, at what point, how quick, how many passengers.
That's not any different to driving a car.
Well, I think when you've got like 300-400 people on it, yeah, and you certainly can't compare it to like driving a bus. There's a big difference. Now, arguably,
going to be a lot more complicated.
I would say, all right, listen, Jeff. Oh, hello, I'm Jeff. I've watched a YouTube video. I'm going to be your driver, taking you down to London.
Well, no, I've done 48 hours.
And I'm gonna go. Yeah, do you know what, Jeff? Let's go.
Good evening, passengers. I've been trained on this amazing, intensive 48-hour course that was initiated by some of the biggest brains in the industry, and it's churning out drivers like myself. So relax, chill out, enjoy, read your newspapers, and we will be in London King's Cross in 2 hours 54 minutes. And I'm going to get lots of
mind the gap. Make sure don't miss mind the gap, and watch the platforms a bit bigger here and there, and get those things right, and do a bit of a. I'm sure you could do all of that type of thing. I think you've been watching too many movies. I'm sure there's a Denzel Washington one or something like that, wasn't there? Is there like one about the train that doesn't stop and they have to worry about it and all of that? Anyway, point is, Jeff, it is very complex. It shouldn't be. I agree with you. And did you know that ultimately it is nationalized rail? Was and it's funny because I was listening to this. Actually, it was just last night. I was listening to this debate by all of these experts, and do you know how much has gone in? Jack, in 2020, before the pandemic, it had been subsidised from 9 billion a year to 21 billion pound a year.
What, for the train services?
Yeah, the train services. So
absolutely outrageous. I just think that
basically the train providers are managing agents. They were meant to have, so these were meant to be competitive contracts. They're meant to raise the money, and they then pay the government and maintain the whatever. It's flipped. So now the government, we are paying for the trains. You've got these monopolies. You've got people getting cancelling trains. I mean, Transparent Express, the chief exec came on air yesterday and said, oh, I'm really sorry. And it's like, well, okay, what about all of these people who've lost their jobs? What about all of these families who can't go from there to there? What about me stressing out about whether I'm going to go to this event? I was that close 4 or 5 times going, it's not worth the stress because I don't know if I'm going to get there and I don't know if I'm going to come back.
Mm. Well, that's exactly the point. And that can easily be saved by putting some train drivers on an intense crash course. And maybe it's like, that could be, well, why don't we approach these people that are giving away billions of pounds and give them that idea? And make a few £100,000.
So interestingly, so just moving on, because naturally we can rant and rave, and there needs to be some positivity in our conversations. But we're certainly sharing the pain and the suffering of all of our fellow citizens. It is so sad, and we need to do something about it. So vote for Ammar. we'll go for, which leads me on to the devolution deal. Jalf, you're familiar somewhat with the mayor that was appointed a few years back, and I was going to do it, but it was for Northumberland and Newcastle and North of Tyne. Well, now the 7 other local authorities, so Sunderland, South Shields, Gateshead and Durham, are now joining to create this devolution unified combined authority. And Michael Gove's coming up here. We're meeting him at lunchtime to sign the deal, and there'll be a new mayor elected in May next year, which will give us £1.4 billion for things like transport and various other things in the first instance, and then also additional funding as well. So it's great news, and indeed, please do consider vote for Ammar. We'll go for as I'm thinking about that. But on a positive note, right? Been doing a lot with the NHS, and in particular the Academic Health Science Network, and they support innovation. And following on from Wednesday's traumatic journey there and back, but quite inspirational day yesterday, we continued to support them and equip them with discovery sessions and things like that. Jalf, I don't know if I mentioned a few weeks back, we facilitated a session between GPs and same-day emergency care, so in hospitals, and we enabled this session to take place. And normally that type of thing would take months, 6 months, to do what we've done in a day, because we got the people in the room, we came up with all the ideas, developed a plan, and made those decisions. So my point is, there is an opportunity to do what you say, look at things in a different way. What else could we do? And is there an opportunity to see who has those core key skills in other sectors or industries that can be applied to where there are big gaps? Challenge is demand has gone up, right? So final point about the railways and the trains that are on them, right? The railways were built over 100 years ago, right? Passenger numbers, so in the last 20 years, up until, and it's great that I was listening to this last night because it's really relevant. So up until 2020, right, there were 1-point-something billion users of the trains, right? In the last 20 years, so the last figure was 2020, that number has doubled. So up until 2020, there was, let's just argument's sake, because I don't know the exact figure, but it was 1.9 or something like that billion users a year in the UK. And in only 20 years, so in however long the railways were first built, and in the last 20 years, people have used that. The other thing is, though, you need to consider the alternative where people use the cars and the impact on climate. We're driving everyone to address climate change, and then you don't offer the facilities, you don't have the infrastructure to enable people to do that.
No, well, look, that's a different thing altogether. But if you go back, Ammar, do you know when we were in London, I think it was Baker Street, and we were astounded about the foresight of the people involved in creating the London Underground. And we were thinking, who on earth, 100, 200 years ago, came up with an idea that, because of the traffic in the capital city, we need to have an underground network of trains below the ground. And we were blown away by that, because someone had that foresight so many years, way beyond the public's time. Now, you're saying that, yes, the train numbers have doubled and this, that, and the other. Now, where is the foresight from our leaders to understand that before it actually happens, to put the infrastructure in place so
you're right. No, but as in, it is that short-sightedness. So interestingly, because these examples were used, and transport was the biggest issue that everybody spoke about on Wednesday. But it was interesting, right? Because in places like, for example, Manchester itself, you've got buses, you've got trams, you've got trains, you've got cars, right? And in London in particular, the foresight of the undergrounds is such that it's not the end of the world to walk from one underground station to the next one to be able to get a different train, or if there was an issue in between. That was part of the foresight. The second thing is the buses are there. They've got all of these alternative modes and various modes of transportation across London. That enable people to go. We need that. And it's the short-sightedness. I mean, even simple changes to like Grey Street in the city. I don't know what's going into the town.
It's
I mean,
absolutely.
like the amount of road works and development all happening all at the same time is such horrific, poor planning that it is disparate for businesses and people that need to go in and out of the town. It is ridiculous that no one sat there going, okay, we've got that planning option, right? We've got these roadworks happening. We need to do this road, whatever. It's like it's a conspiracy.
Well, I think it is a conspiracy because it's part of the plan for us that come to the city centre every day. They seem to be hell-bent on destroying the city centre and the access to the city centre, and it just doesn't make any sense. There's nothing wrong with our city centre. Everyone wants improvement. Everyone wants to, something that's going to genuinely benefit the city centre. We're all for that. For example, when Northumberland Street was pedestrianised all those years ago, it was a correct decision. It may have been inconvenient for buses or whatever at that time, but it was a correct decision. You're trying to destroy the most beautifulest curved road in the whole of Europe, and you've destroyed it from that into it's a terrible street now. I mean, you've got black and white bloody bollards everywhere. You've got a bit of tarmac here, and you've got that old beautiful stone is gone, and you've got, you've allowed the businesses to take over the entire curb by having outside seating, where they would have been quite happy for the outside seating just to be in a linear line as opposed to take over the whole curb and then cut into the road to give pedestrians access. It was just wholly unnecessary. And they don't even, it's as though that people that should be working in the best interest of Newcastle and making Newcastle city centre the best place in the country, which independent operators like us try and do. But it seems as though that the city council that should be leading us are not doing the job that they're in place to do. It's very, very frustrating.
Actually, I was talking to Nick Camp, the leader, and he is quite attuned to business growth and challenges and things like that. So we'll have him at a curry club, and we're going to have some of these conversations with him. Anyway, coming back to the positive aspect. So yesterday, we facilitated a session with the AHSN, which was amazing. Following on from, I was on the Northeast Let board meeting where we talked about devolution and such like, and the opportunities that that's going to give, because the various combined authorities, the councils are all going to come together, work more collaboratively, and such like. And then I went to Dance City, Jalf, and watched a performance of 9 songs, a sort of a Chinese-based production. And as I was sat there, I was thinking about you, thinking, I should have invited Jeff along to this, because it was distinctly different.
Just not taking me to any of the cool places you used to back in the day.
Well, neither do you.
You're on the forefront of your mind. But
we used to celebrate everything together.
Just like you just left us behind whilst you're living it up.
Yeah. Just anyway, we are celebrating. Sorry, you never take me to celebrate anything that you do. It's so sad. Anyway, it was all, I only had 1 ticket in, so I could never have taken you, and it was jam-packed. But if you get the chance, go along to see this production. I've never seen anything like it. And it was really interesting. But once again, it's dead easy to think, oh my gosh, it's like I've been on my feet all day. And I was talking to someone about Wednesday. It would have been dead easy for me to go, I could really do with a day back in my diary, so I can catch up on things and whatever else. But it's important to, when you make a commitment, to follow through with that commitment because you really enjoy it. So all in all, quite an inspiring, positive week, demonstrating all of the things that we should be celebrating here in our northeast, and everything that we should be proud of. Equally, we've had a bit of a conversation around what we shouldn't. Great result for Newcastle United. We haven't done that
Yeah.
among just football show.
Yes, of course. Well, we've got a couple of minutes, so we may get cut off early. Sometimes that does happen. If we do get cut off abruptly, then you know why. But yes, brilliant result. It should have been more though, because really we got a goal, really good goal disallowed, and we missed a couple of really easy chances. But anyway, we have the 1-goal cushion. They come to St James's Park on Tuesday. The atmosphere is going to be electric. It's the biggest game in since the 60s in many ways, because we've never we have been in the final 16, 17, 18 years ago, but not in the Carabao Cup. So it's going to be great atmosphere in St James's Park. Hopefully we get into the final, which is on the 26th of February, and it's most likely that's going to be with Manchester United. So it's going to be a great day out, hopefully on the 26th. So and along with that, obviously we're still in the top 4 places. So hopefully we'll have a really good end to the season with 20 games in. There's about 18 games to go, along with hopefully the Carabao Cup final.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting times, Ammar. I think a lot of fans have already gone and booked train tickets and booked hotels in anticipation, in advance. Obviously, after Tuesday, it's going to be chaotic. I just don't think there's going to be any trains. There's not going to be any trains available to get to London, or there's not going to be any seats available. So those that are traveling, you need to be really thinking about it, how you're going to get there.
Hopefully, people will put coaches on and things like that.
Yeah,
and,
there'll be coaches.
Lots of, as you say, I know so many people that speculatively had booked train tickets and everything else.
Yeah.
For that, which is great. As in and accommodation and all of that type of thing. I think